Hey folks, Aaron here from Aaron's Practical Reviews. And this entire video is going to be basically about lenses that I use in certain situations. And this is just a few years of experience accumulating lenses, as you can see here. And this is all based on my personal experience and what I believe are the best lenses in these situations for my style. With my gear, which is the 90D, the T7i, and the 6D Mark II. So this is going to be a mix of crop sensor EFS lenses and some full frame lenses. So let's start first and foremost with my three favorite YouTube lenses, which is exactly what I'm doing right now in this type of situation. First, the Canon 50mm, the Sigma 35mm f1.4, and the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. I'm currently filming with the 90D and the Sigma 35mm f1.4. Gives great bokeh. No image stabilization. Most of the Sigma lenses don't have image stabilization, especially the Art series. But anyways, excellent lens, and I've come to really love it for filming my YouTube video. The 50mm f1.8. To me, that is the very first lens I would recommend everybody go out and buy. And I'm not the only one to say that. A lot of people say that, and for really, really good reason. Because, first of all, it's like $125. That's like a stock price almost all the time. At f1.8, excellent in low light. The camera's got to be back a little bit, so it helps to have an external mic. And then lastly, on there, the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. Now, that lens will hold the f1.8 aperture through the entire range, focal range. So from 18 to 35, you're getting f1.8, which is excellent in low light. That lens is extremely sharp. Unfortunately, that lens is a EFS mount lens. However, it actually mounts on a full frame camera, and you have a small window there. You don't have the full range from 18 to 35 to use it, but you do have a small window in there to actually use it on. So the mount actually is more of a EF mount. Now it does come up just a hair, so yeah, so like at 18mm, it looks like James Bond. You're looking through a little hole. It's completely vignetted around, and see, I don't know, around 24mm to say 30, somewhere in there. You have a little range where you could actually use it on a full frame. So it's not completely useless on a full frame, but you don't get the full range. So those three lenses there for YouTube, excellent options. I would highly recommend them. Those are the three that I use all the time in almost all the different situations. Indoor, lower light, on a tripod, and just excellent for that. Okay, next set of lenses here. Portrait, indoor, or outdoor lenses. These I actually have four here. But let's start. The Canon 50mm f1.8 again. The Canon 85mm f1.8, the Sigma 35mm f1.4, and the Canon 70-200 f2.8. Yeah, so I threw that in there because I think that's my best one, but I know that it's, that's part of my dream set that I'm getting to here in a minute. But anyways, let's start again. The Canon 50mm f1.8 for portraits, indoor or outdoor. It's excellent indoors. It's a little bit softer than I'd prefer, but a lot of people like softer portraits. Makes their skin tone look a little better. It's just an excellent beginner lens at $125. The 50mm f1.8 for portraits, indoor or outdoor. The Sigma 35mm f1.4, I'm using it now, like I said. Just a beautiful look to your portraits. It's a nice focal length where you can be fairly close to your subjects, feel fairly intimate talking to them and instructing them and getting around them, and you still get a nice portion of the background. It's a slight bokeh, but it's not completely blown out. So here you can actually use the background as part of your photo and to enhance it. If it's a situation where the background looks crappy, you probably don't want to use it because you can still see chunks of the background. But if you want to incorporate the background into the portrait, the 35mm focal length is fantastic. The f1.4 gives it a nice subtle, but yet fairly blown out look. It's just an excellent portrait lens. It's really, really sharp. Most Sigma Arts are, and I love this one for portraits. So the Canon 85mm f1.8, very similar to the Canon 50mm f1.8, similar in sharpness, similar in a lot of different ways actually, but you're getting a little bit extra blur to the background. It's a slightly older lens. It's very noisy for video, which is fine because it's typically used for portraits, but it gives a really nice smooth bokeh, and that 85mm focal length just works out really nice for portraits. It's obviously the Canon 70 to 200mm. You know, there's not much to say about this except it's awesome every which way. Costs an arm and a leg, and if you save up the money and get it or whatever, you will feel the financial burden of it, and you will absolutely love every minute of using it. It's just absolutely the most perfect lens I own, and I love it to death. So now let's go to vlogging lenses. Okay, now here, what I'm looking for in a vlogging lens typically is something that's fairly wide, fairly lightweight, and if possible, good in low light. So let's start here. We got the Canon 24mm, the Canon 10 to 18mm with the image stabilization, and I added the Sigma 18 to 35mm. Now, okay, let's start with the Canon 24mm. It's tiny, right? If you're not familiar with it, which it's a tiny, tiny lens. It's got no image stabilization, something being this small, it wouldn't, you know, it's so small. But it's tiny. It's only about $125, $150, depending on, you know, what time of the year, where you find it. It's extremely light. It can probably fit in your pocket. On camera, it adds hardly any weight, any size, any bulk. Now it's at 24mm on a crop sensor. You have to hold it back a little tiny bit. But anyways, so this is the 24 4K. One of the least expensive, lightest, most reliable lenses you can get. You know, if there's a knock on it, I'd say that's it. Extremely sharp. Okay, next, the Canon 10 to 18mm. Another very lightweight lens, fairly small and compact. This guy is all plastic. I cut this out so it would work. I cut off the thing that you know, differentiates the EF from the EFS lens. So this would actually work on my 6D Mark II. I have a video about that. Not recommended, but I tried it anyways. So I modified it and put it on a full frame, which I'm filming with now. It's at 14mm, because at the time I didn't have anything that wide. So that actually works on my 6D Mark II also. Anyways, about that lens for vlogging, let's get back on subject. It's got image stabilization. The only knock on it, it's not very good in low light because it's got a maximum aperture of f4.5. But it's great for outdoor vlogging with the image stabilization. It helps a little bit. All right, so we can't talk about crop sensor lenses without talking about the 10 to 18mm. One of the widest that you can get, and one of the widest and least expensive you can get. It's lightweight. It's very convenient. Very nice little vlogging lens. Okay, so next, let's go to the 18 to 35. This, I'm kind of torn on vlogging with this because here's the problem. It's a extremely heavy lens and it wears on you very quickly when you're vlogging. However, in low light or in so many different situations, it's just such an excellent picture quality. So this is the Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 on the 90D, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to go from here, but so far this thing has been pretty reliable. It's the sharpest of the three that I mentioned there by far. Now it doesn't have image stabilization, but if you can hold it, you're going to get the best image by far with this. Just absolutely awesome lens for vlogging. If, again, the big if is if you can withstand the weight. But if you can, this is the lens you're going to want to use. Just be prepared for some shoulder aches. All right, so now let's talk about real estate. Let's go here. The Sigma 14 to 24mm f2.8, the Canon 24 to 70mm f2.8, and a more reasonably priced Canon 10 to 18mm f4.5. But let's start with the Sigma 14 to 24. f2.8. This is my newest lens, and this lens is just absolutely amazingly sharp. I can't get over how sharp it is. It's razor sharp. It's huge. It's got this huge front element, but it's just abnormally sharp, especially for such a wide angle at 14 millimeters. It's just abnormally sharp. Now I know Sigma claims that it's got absolutely minimal distortion, and maybe that's true, minimal comparatively, but there is some distortion at 14 millimeters. I don't know how there couldn't be, especially on a full frame. So, and for real estate, that's not always a bad thing. It can make some smaller rooms look huge, but you do need a tripod. I'd say 90% of the time for the type of photos that I like, put it in the tripod, put it in the corner, set that timer, get out of the shot and get it. And, you know, set that ISO at 100, get a nice, beautiful, clean shot. And this does an excellent job at that. You know, it's just very useful in a lot of different situations. Very heavy though, bulky. And, you know, compared to, you know, if you compare it to the 10 to 18, here's the size difference. So that's something else to consider. Also another thing to consider, properly applied to the EF mount on a full frame camera, the 14 to 24 is going to be drastically wider. However, this guy here, it's about a quarter of the price, and on a, you know, a T7i, an entry-level camera, you could definitely use this for real estate. Being a maximum aperture at f4.5, you're definitely going to want a tripod. You're going to want to set that, you know, ISO 100, whatever, you know, as low as possible, and it's going to have to sit there. You're going to have to run out of the shot, and it's going to have to sit there for a minute, soak up that light. So it's going to be more of a long exposure type situation for real estate, but it'll definitely work. And then, of course, I love the 24 to 70 f2.8. It's kind of big, kind of bulky for that type of photography, but like I said, it's what I have. So, all right, so those would be it for real estate. All very useful. All right, now let's go to what I would call my starter kit, and that's going to be the Canon 50mm f1.8, the Canon 24mm f2.8, the Canon 55 to 250, and the Canon 10 to 18mm. Now, the Canon 50mm f1.8, I've gone into detail about that. That fits so many situations. It's just an excellent lens. Like I said, absolutely get it if you don't have it. It's a must for every starter. The Canon 24mm f2.8, it's great to take traveling. It's great for landscapes. It's not a great portrait lens, but it just checks so many boxes. It's tiny, it's inexpensive, it's lightweight, and it's razor sharp, especially for that price. So for video, now I know it doesn't have image stabilization, but it still gets great video. It's wider, so any kind of camera shake you're not going to notice as much, being very wide. It's just an excellent all-around lens. The 55 to 250 is just a really fun lens, like I said, to go get birds. It's great at soccer games. You know, you're not going to get a lot from it in lower light. It's just a great little zoom lens to take, and it's fairly small for a zoom with that range. It's very lightweight. It's a nice, inexpensive little zoom. Absolutely great for a starter, and most people want that range when they first start out, so it's a good lens to have. And then, of course, the Canon 10 to 18mm, which I've gone into, fits a couple different boxes of mine, and it's, you know, compared to the others, it's a little more expensive, but it does have image stabilization the same way that the 55 to 250 does have image stabilization. So as a starter kit, this is a nice little mix that'll get you, you know, it'll get you your foot in the door in a lot of different styles of photography. So I definitely recommend all four of those if you're starting out. And I don't think they'll break the bank either. I think you can find them for pretty good deals usually. And then, okay, this one here I just want to throw out there. This is my dream kit, actually. This is the kit that I've built after trying all these other lenses and come to the conclusion that these are the lenses that best fit me for my style and what I want to do moving forward. So that's the Sigma 14 to 24mm f2.8, the Canon 24 to 70 f2.8, the Canon 70-200 f2.8, and I threw in the Sigma 35 f1.4 because I believe these 4 lenses combined just cover everything that I would like to do moving forward, from real estate to portrait to wedding to landscape. It covers a lot of. There's still a couple lenses I want to try, but for right now, I'm extremely happy with this little kit I've built. So I just wanted to share that. If you want to know what's your dream kit, well, right now that's it. I actually got it. I worked really hard to get it. It took a while. I've worked on it for 3 years, and that's where I'm at now. So that's my dream kit that would cover everything. Now, with that said, I could use that on either the 90D or the 60 Mark II. So anyways, I just want to throw that in there. I'm super proud of that. I'm happy about that. This is the last little bit I want to throw in. This is what I would consider a budget landscape kit. Now, landscape is probably the newest form of photography I've gotten into. Here's the thing about landscape photography. It's difficult because there's so much that can ruin a landscape shot, in my opinion. Whereas a portrait, you only have, just your subject, and that's it. In a landscape, there could be some twigs over here and this that you got to try to remove or work around. For what I'm used to doing, landscape I have found to be one of the more difficult types of photography to get right, to actually get usable images that I like. But anyways, here's my kit. Canon 24mm f2.8, the Canon 10-18mm with the image stabilization, the Canon 18-55 kit lens, that makes an appearance here, and believe it or not, the Sigma 35mm f1.4. I've actually used that in a couple different situations, and it's just so sharp, and it just really get a really nice result with it. I enjoy using it for that. But the 24mm f2.8, it's a very comfortable focal range. I'm starting to think, though, for landscape, you really need a zoom, because a lot of times you're stuck somewhere and you really need that zoom. I'm starting to realize, not always, but I'm starting to think maybe, I've got to reevaluate my landscape skills and kits. Okay, then let's go to the 10-18mm. We've gone over that too. That 10-18 brings a lot into the picture. So again, you got to really work on your composition with it. But for a budget landscape kit, you got to go there because it's a good budget wide angle. The Canon 18-55 kit lens, yes, absolutely, the kit lens is useful. It's got a very useful zoom. With a tripod, even in lower light, you can use it for stars. You can use it for, long exposure. There's a lot of different things you can do with a kit lens because of that focal length. And let's face it, it's free if you got the camera, right? It came with the camera, so why not throw it into every kit? And then the Sigma 35 f1.4, the 35mm f1.4 that I'm on now, it's just so razor sharp, and I'm really starting to enjoy that 35mm, especially on a full frame. It's just becoming a really comfortable focal range for me, and I'm liking it more and more. So I just threw that in there because I enjoy using it in almost every situation, including landscape. So yeah, folks, that's it. It's kind of a lengthy video, lengthy list here, but I use these lenses almost daily, and I like sharing. Like I always say, I like sharing when I learn stuff. So that's it. Hey, I'm sure you disagree with a lot of this video, and if you do, that's fine. Let me know in the description below what you think, what your favorites are. I'd love to hear it. Other people probably would too, especially because I'm fairly new to this, and a lot of people have been following me from the beginning, so they like to get other people's input on it as well, especially people who have been doing this for a long time. So, I'm sure that could help other people as well if you've got something to add. But other than that, that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll have all these linked in the description below. If you like this video, would appreciate a like and subscribe. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.